They faked an estrangement to test if I'd fold. My mother, my sister, and my brother thought they still had control. They didn't expect I'd block them, change my name, leave the country, and never look back. I always knew something was off, but I didn't have the language for it until much later. My name is Elliot. I'm 31 years old, and I live in Seattle now, working as an aerospace engineer. But this story starts long before the rockets and test flights, back in a small town in Virginia, where respect meant silence and love meant never asking why. Growing up, I was the middle child in a family that didn't do questions. My dad was a decorated officer, the kind of man who ironed his jeans and believed eye contact was a form of insubordination. My older brother Bryce practically came out of the womb saluting, and Kayla, the youngest, learned early on that playing dumb got you affection. I was just there, quiet, smart I guess, but invisible in the ways that mattered. Mom had a way with words, especially the ones that cut deep and looked pretty doing it. She quoted scripture like it was poetry and told us loyalty was earned through obedience. She'd tell us how proud she was of our father's unquestionable leadership, like it was a family motto. What she meant was, don't push back. What she meant was, love is for good children, and good children follow the rules. By the time I hit 22, I had a job offer from an aerospace firm in Washington State. I took it without hesitation. No big goodbyes, just a stiff handshake from Dad and a tight-lipped, keep God first from Mom. Bryce said, don't do anything stupid, and Kayla gave me a hug that lasted 2 seconds too long. Then I left. I thought distance would fix it. It didn't, not exactly. The holiday cards started arriving. Cards from my mother, always handwritten, always in cursive so elegant it felt like it belonged on wedding invitations. Inside were Bible verses about wisdom and humility, followed by lines like, I hope you're finding ways to grow into a man worth following. That was her way. Criticism tucked inside compliments, like medicine hidden in honey. I never replied. Not once. But I read every word, because that's the kind of child she raised me to be. Then, 3 years ago, I met Lena. We bumped into each other, literally, outside a bookstore. I was on my phone, and she was balancing a coffee and a bag of used paperbacks. We both said sorry at the same time and laughed in that awkward way people do when they're deciding if this is a moment or just a mess. It turned out to be a moment. Lena came from a world I didn't know existed. Her parents were artists, teachers, people who believed emotions weren't threats, but invitations. When she was upset, she said so. When she was confused, she asked questions. I'd never seen that before. I didn't even know how to respond. Once, I told her about a letter my mom had sent that quoted Proverbs and ended with, I trust you're still walking in the light. Lena read it, then looked up and said, this is emotional manipulation with calligraphy. I laughed, but I also felt something unravel. Not in a bad way, just in a way that told me maybe my family's version of love wasn't the only version. Maybe it wasn't even love at all. We moved in together a year later. Her apartment felt like a home within a month. Painted walls, plants I couldn't name, a couch that didn't match anything but made us both happy. It was the first time I realized I didn't have to earn comfort. I could just have it. Every now and then, my mother would send a message, usually tied to some religious holiday or vague milestone. Remember, God's design includes honoring your parents, she'd write. Don't forget who you belong to. But I already had. I belong to myself now. And to Lena. To our mismatched furniture and our late-night takeout, and the quiet safety of knowing I could be loved without shrinking. That was the first real gift Lena gave me. Not the absence of judgment, but the presence of safety. The kind where you don't need to be anyone but yourself. And I never realized how rare that was until the day she said, I think your parents should come visit. Just once, so we can see who we're really dealing with. I smiled then, because I knew what she meant. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to show me I didn't have to pretend anymore. It was Lena's idea. I just think we should try, she said, wiping her hands on a dish towel after dinner. Not for them, for you. Let them come. See what happens. I wanted to say no. Every instinct told me to. But a part of me, the part that still flinched when I saw Virginia on a return address, said maybe it was time. Not to heal, just to witness. So I sent the text, a short, polite invite for a weekend visit. My mom replied within the hour. Looking forward to it. We'll bring a pie. Dad didn't respond. He never did. They arrived Friday evening, 2 suitcases and a casserole dish in hand. My mother wore pearls and a blazer like she was headed to a church fundraiser. Dad looked exactly the same, pressed jeans, an old windbreaker from a base that had closed years ago, and that default expression of mild disappointment. Lena greeted them at the door with a warm smile. Welcome. Let me take your coats. Mom looked around like she was appraising a hotel lobby. It's very modern, she said, setting the casserole on the counter. Minimalist. Thanks, Lena replied, unfazed. We like to keep it simple. They spent the first hour making small talk. Bryce's promotion. Kayla's surprise engagement. Bible study updates. Lena offered tea. Mom asked if we had anything decaf and organic. Dad stared at his phone. Dinner was roasted chicken, vegetables, and a wild rice salad Lena had spent all afternoon prepping. It was simple, thoughtful, delicious. But my mother picked at her plate like it might bite back. This chicken's very artistic, she said, her fork tapping it lightly. Not quite traditional. Lena smiled. We like trying new things. Oh, of course. It's just, your father likes his meat a little more done. Don't you, Harold? Dad didn't look up. Whatever. I could heat it more, if you'd like. Lena offered. No, it's fine. We're guests, after all, Mom said, as if she were tolerating a hostile environment. After dinner, we moved to the living room. Lena lit a candle. My mother coughed theatrically. Do you mind if I open a window? Some of these fragrances give me headaches. I stood up too fast. It's fine. I'll crack one. We sat, talked, or rather, we tried. You've done well for yourself, my mom said to me, scanning the bookshelves. All this aerospace work. It's very technical, I imagine. It is, I replied. She turned to Lena. And you? What is it you do again? Something with education? I work in early child development, Lena said. I coach teachers and work with kids who've experienced trauma. Mom blinked slowly. That must be challenging. All those little emotions all the time. Lena smiled. It's rewarding. Emotions are just communication. Mom's mouth twitched. Well, we were raised to believe in structure. It hung there. That word. Structure. Their favorite euphemism for silence. Later that night, while we were doing dishes, Lena leaned over and whispered, so this is what you meant by decorum is weaponry. I almost laughed, but it caught in my throat. The next day, the tension turned sharper. Subtle comments became barbs. This rug is very bold, Mom said, eyeing our living room, almost like it's trying to make a statement. I think it suits us, Lena said lightly. It's definitely unique. Lunch was takeout. Lena picked up Thai food from our favorite spot. Mom barely touched hers. Spicy food can upset the stomach. I'm sure you young folks can handle it. Dad muttered. We had meatloaf at our house. By dinner, I was ready to call it. Lena insisted we stick it out. So we set the table. Again. Sat down. Again. But this time, something cracked. Mom took a bite of salad and looked at Lena. You've done well. I can see why Elliot's so comfortable here. She said comfortable like it was a flaw. But I do worry, she continued, that comfort makes people soft. We raised our children to be strong. Lena set down her fork. Her voice was soft but sharp. Strong is good, but not if it means numb. Mom blinked. Lena turned to me. Do you see it now? That's when it clicked. Every comment, every microcut masked as a compliment. I looked at my mother, not as the woman who raised me, but as the architect of my silence. And I nodded. Yeah, I do. After they left the next morning, Mom hugging me like she was forgiving something, Dad offering a grunt from the driver's seat, I sat on the couch next to Lena and stared at the spot where they had stood. I always thought I was imagining it, I said. You weren't, she replied. You just finally stopped translating it. That afternoon, I called my parents, told them there would be no more visits unless Lena and I were treated with respect. My mom's voice tightened. We never meant offense. You don't have to, I said. That's the problem. Then I hung up, and for the first time in years, it felt like mine. My phone, my choice, my voice. The silence didn't come right away. That would have made it too easy. It started slow, subtle, a shift in the wind. The family group chat, Team Jefferson, as Bryce once jokingly named it, was usually full of forwarded devotionals and grainy memes about coffee and Mondays. But the week after the boundary call, I noticed something new. I'd send a picture of Lena's latest garden project, nothing fancy, just a snapshot of her standing proudly beside the tomatoes she coaxed back from the brink. No response, not a like, not a cute, from Kayla, just digital dust. Then, 3 days later, a message from Bryce lit up the group. Bryce, family dinner tonight. All welcome. Missing one chair. I stared at it for a full minute. It wasn't a typo. It was a message, clear as day. A photo followed. Their dining room, set for 6. At the end of the table, an empty chair with a wine glass still glinting in the light, like someone had just stepped away, or been erased. Kayla reacted with a laughing emoji and wrote, Kayla, hope whoever's missing finds their backbone soon. The words hit harder than I expected, not because I wanted to be at that dinner, but because for a moment, I imagined how they were talking about me. Laughing, probably. nodding with concern while buttering their rolls. Lena was quiet when I showed her the messages. Then she took my phone, scrolled through the group, and said, "They're not freezing you out. They're staging a loyalty test." "Eh, what?" She handed the phone back. "They want you to flinch. They want you to crawl back so they can act like you're the one being dramatic." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "That's so strategic." Lena raised an eyebrow. "Toxic families are nothing if not organized." Later that night, I texted Kayla privately. "Me, we're good, right?" The typing bubbles danced for a full minute before her reply came in. "Kayla, I'm not sure what you mean anymore." That was it. Not angry, not kind, just vague enough to sting. Bryce followed up the next day. No text, just a tagged photo on Facebook from some barbecue. Everyone smiling. Even Claire, my cousin who only showed up when the food was free. The caption, "Family isn't blood, it's who shows up." Claire liked it. My aunt liked it. So did Mom. I untagged myself from the group page that night. The worst part wasn't the silence. It was the fact that it was coordinated, designed, polite on the outside, but sharp enough underneath to bleed. That weekend, Lena sat down at her laptop. "We should change your passwords," she said, typing fast. "Anything with shared access, especially the old accounts you don't use anymore." You think they'd? I think they already are. It was like watching her gear up for battle. Bank logins, social accounts, even the shared Spotify I forgot I still had with Kayla. Gone. Locked. Reclaimed. "Do not chase the quiet," Lena said, pausing between tabs. "Let them sit in it. That's where the truth shows up." So I didn't answer Bryce's next message, or Kayla's meme about middle children being the drama queens of the zodiac. I didn't send birthday wishes when Mom posted about Dad's surprise golf trip. I watched, and I waited. And the funny thing? That silence they designed to punish me, it started to echo back. Their dinner photos got fewer likes. Their posts stopped including group shots. Even Aunt Jeannie, the eternal peacekeeper, messaged me privately. "Aunt Jeannie, did something happen? The family's being weird." Me, just setting boundaries. "Aunt Jeannie, well, that explains it. Keep doing what you need to do, sweetie." Some folks don't like it when the mirror talks back. That night, I lay next to Lena on the couch while she read a book and our cat climbed all over her hair. I realized something. This was peace, not quiet. Peace, because silence with intent, that's punishment. But silence with boundaries, that's freedom. The first birthday card came 2 weeks later. No return address. Just a cream envelope with my full name spelled out in looping script. My mother's handwriting flawless, like always. Inside, the message was short. "Wishing you wisdom, not pride." Proverbs 11 verse 2. No love, Mom. No signature at all. Just scripture like a warning shot. I left it on the table without reading it twice. Lena picked it up the next day, read it quietly, then muttered, "So now it's parables instead of conversation." I nodded. "And poison instead of cake." That card was the start. A week later, Kayla posted a throwback photo on Instagram from a family vacation in Myrtle Beach, back when I was maybe 14. Everyone was tagged but me. My face was even cropped out, just barely. The caption read, "Real memories, real love, always the 5 of us." I counted 4 people in the photo. 5, if you included me. But I didn't fit the aesthetic. I took a screenshot. Then I opened a folder on my desktop and labeled it, "Receipts." I didn't know why I needed it yet, but something told me I would. More came. A text from my cousin Trina that said, "Trina, just a heads up, your mom asked if I'd take you off the family email list. Said you were going through something private. You okay?" I stared at it, heart thudding a little too loud. "Me?" She said I asked for that? "Trina." She implied it. I wasn't sure what to do. "Me. Keep me on. And thanks for telling me." Add that to the folder. Lena watched me build the archive, bit by bit, screenshots, messages, passive-aggressive status updates, even a private message from Bryce's wife Claire, saying, "Claire, I don't agree with everything they're doing, but blood is blood. I hope you come around." "Blood is just plumbing," Lena muttered, highlighting the message and dragging it into the receipts folder. Plenty of families get clocked. That Thanksgiving, we didn't go home. Lena's parents invited us to Vermont, where her mom cooked in bare feet and her dad played piano in the afternoons. It was soft. No one asked about church. No one quoted Corinthians at the dinner table. No one made jokes with a knife behind the teeth. We sat in sweatpants and drank cider and talked about things like books and weird dreams and what the stars looked like at different elevations. And I realized something in that tiny kitchen. I didn't miss my family. Not one bit. When we got home, I made more changes. I called the credit union and removed my name from the old loan account Dad had talked me into co-signing years ago. He hadn't touched it in a while, but I didn't want it there anymore. Not even as a ghost. The banker was polite. "Would you like to close it entirely?" "Yes," I said, and send me a written confirmation. Click. Gone. Next was the shared Amazon account Mom still used to buy books and then send them to Kayla's kids with notes signed from Grandma and Grandpa. Lena and I created a new one. New password, new card, new everything. Then I went through every shared folder, cloud, password list, and streaming service. Block, change, delete. Not out of spite, out of necessity. One night, I sat on the couch while Lena folded laundry, and I pulled up the receipts folder. It was growing. Not massive, but enough. Enough to remind me I wasn't imagining it. Enough to prove, if needed, that this wasn't about one fight. This was a pattern, a structure, like scaffolding made from guilt and gaslight. I never used to question myself, I said. That was the problem. Lena glanced up. You were taught not to. I nodded. But now I've got evidence, just in case they ever try to rewrite the story. Good, she said. Now you've got a paper trail. And the truth? That folder didn't just hold proof. It held peace. Because for the first time, I wasn't collecting it to explain myself to them. I was collecting it so I'd never again have to explain myself to me. The harassment started as whispers. Then it escalated. It was a Thursday morning when I got the first email. The sender's name I didn't recognize, michellegray328@protonmail.com. But the message was unmistakably familiar. I know what you're doing to your family. It's sick. You think cutting off the people who raised you makes you strong? You're just a coward in a clean apartment. Ask yourself, would Jesus be proud? I stared at it for a long minute, then forwarded it to myself, screenshotted it, and dropped it into the receipts folder. Lena leaned over. Anonymous email? Looks like Claire's tone, but Bryce's vocabulary. Either way, she said, time to start documenting differently. That weekend, Bryce showed up, unannounced. I was walking out of the office building when I saw him standing near the parking lot, arms crossed, wearing a fleece vest over a button-up like it was armor. He didn't smile, just nodded like this was a tactical meeting. You busy? He asked. Always, I said. Got a minute? No. He stepped in front of me. You really want it like this? Legal files? Email locks? Blocking your own family? I paused. You mean boundaries? He smirked. You're making things harder than they need to be. You're right, I said, stepping around him. This conversation's over. I didn't run. I didn't raise my voice. I just walked. And the next day, I filed a no-contact letter through a lawyer Lena recommended. It wasn't dramatic, just official. A formal document sent to Bryce, Kayla, Claire, and my parents, stating that all future communication must be initiated through legal counsel. It was quiet for about 48 hours. Then came the reaction. Claire posted a series of Instagram stories, blurry childhood photos with captions like, "Some people forget where they came from. I guess peace is more important than people now. Miss the days when we had real family, not paperwork." Under one, a filtered photo of a family Christmas from years ago, I was cropped out entirely. The frame ended at my arm. Lena shook her head. Do they think they're winning something? No, I said. They're just performing their own version of the past. The next day, I started therapy. I didn't go because I was breaking. I went because I was tired of stitching myself back together alone. My therapist, Joyce, a soft-spoken woman with silver hair and blunt truths, listened to everything. The email, the visit, the years of scripture-wrapped shaming. At the end of our second session, she said, you've been taught your whole life that if you react, you're disrespectful. But silence in the face of abuse isn't peace, it's permission. That hit. I wrote it down. 2 weeks later, Lena and I sat down at the kitchen table with a stack of index cards, a bottle of wine, and a single goal, the wedding guest list. We crossed out every name from my side of the family. No Bryce, no Kayla, no Claire, no Harold or Deborah Jefferson. And we didn't second-guess a single strike. I thought this would hurt more, I said. It hurts because you hoped, Lena replied. But now you know better. And that's not grief. That's relief. The hardest part was the call from Aunt Jeannie. She left a voicemail after seeing the stories. Her voice wavered. I just want to say I'm sorry. I see what they're doing. I didn't know how deep it was until I watched them erase you. If you need anything, I'm here. I cried after that one. Not because I needed her, but because someone finally saw it without me having to explain. The last straw came a week later. A man I'd never met, Eli, Claire's fiancé, sent me a direct email with the subject line, "A man's duty." Inside was a 3-paragraph manifesto about forgiveness, masculinity, and not letting women run your emotions. I laughed out loud halfway through it, then forwarded it to my lawyer. Add this to the file, I wrote. The file was thick now, not just the receipts, but every photo scrubbed of me, every message dripping with manipulation, every attempt to pull me back into the orbit of guilt. I wasn't building a case to punish them. I was building a wall to protect myself. And when the guest list was done, Lena took my hand and said, Your peace is the real inheritance, not their approval, not their name. And she was right. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to be seen by them. I was building something they could never reach. And that, more than any letter, lawsuit, or locked account, was the closure they'd never be allowed to touch. It started with the building buzzer. Lena and I had just gotten back from a long walk. Late March, crisp air, the city thawing out, and we're about to kick off our shoes when the intercom crackled to life. "Hello," Lena said, pressing the button. Silence. Then a voice we both recognized. "It's your mother-in-law. You really going to make me stand out here like a criminal?" Lena froze. "It's her," she mouthed. I walked over, leaned down, and calmly pressed the disconnect button. The intercom beeped. Deadline. Claire had moved to Seattle. Not moved, exactly, more like temporarily relocated for some supposed work contract she'd been vague about on Facebook. But I knew better. It wasn't a coincidence that she landed 10 minutes from our apartment 2 months before our wedding. Lena called building management the next morning. They upgraded our access list immediately. Now only pre-approved visitors could buzz up, and Claire's name went on the deny list in bold. We thought that was the end of it. We were wrong. 2 weeks later, I got pulled into a routine check-in with HR. I sat across from my manager, Ken, good guy, no poker face, and the lead from employee relations. "We received an anonymous complaint," the HR lead said. "It accuses you of creating a hostile work environment, rooted in retaliation against family." I laughed out loud. Ken didn't. "This is serious, Elliot." "I know exactly who filed it," I said. "They asked if I wanted to file a counterclaim for harassment. I said yes, and then I called my lawyer. She added the incident to the case file. Feels more like stalking now," Lena said that night. "It is," I replied, and it was only getting worse. That weekend, someone from my high school DM'd me. "Aaron M. Hey man, long time." Claire reached out, said y'all had a falling out and asked me to check in. Everything okay? I hadn't spoken to Aaron since senior prom. I didn't answer. I just blocked him. Then Lena sat me down with a folder she'd been building of her own. Not screenshots, not social posts, but wedding plans. A location in Portugal. A small coastal town where we'd first vacationed together. No guests, no family, just a marriage license, a photographer, and a beach. "We don't need to invite ghosts," she said. I looked at the itinerary, quiet hotels, handwritten vows, one outfit each. No seating charts, no speeches, no one showing up to remind me who raised me. "I don't want a moment," she said softly. "I want a life." I nodded. "Then let's go live it." We booked everything under my new name, one I'd been working on with a lawyer for 6 months. A merge of mine and Lena's surnames. No hyphen, just clean, quiet change. By summer, the paperwork would be final. I'd no longer be Elliot Jefferson. And for once, that didn't feel like erasure. It felt like freedom. The day after we booked the trip, Lena handed me a burner phone. "For emergencies only," she said, "in case they try to ruin this too." I set it in a drawer and never looked at it again. That weekend, a package showed up. No return address. Inside, an old photo of me as a kid, held to the cardboard with masking tape. My name scratched out in pen. Elliot spelled wrong underneath. A note attached. "You can change your name, but not your history." We didn't even finish opening it. We handed it to our lawyer and went out for tacos. Because by then, the message was clear. They weren't trying to bring me home. They were trying to trap me in a story I didn't write, but I had chosen a different chapter, a different country, and a different name, and they couldn't follow. I didn't even know I had been in my grandmother's will until I was officially taken out of it. The news came through a cousin, Zoe, one of the few I hadn't blocked yet. Her message arrived on a Monday afternoon, short and loaded. "Zoe, so Claire told everyone what happened. You're not in the will anymore. Just thought you'd want to know before the posts go up." I read it twice. Then I looked at Lena across the kitchen table. "They're scrubbing me from the bloodline now." She didn't even blink. "Then they're doing you a favor." I nodded. A few hours later, the first post hit Facebook. Claire sharing a black and white photo of Grandma, holding a pie, smiling big, with the caption, "She knew who the real ones were. Loyalty matters. Legacy matters." I zoomed in. There were 5 grandkids in the original version of that photo. Now there were 4. My image, 18 years old, arms folded, standing by the screen door, was gone. Literally erased. Photoshopped out with crude digital paint and poor lighting edits. If you didn't know where to look, you'd never even know I was there. Kayla commented, "Perfect. Just how I remember it." Zoe didn't tag me. She just screenshotted it and sent it quietly. "Zoe, they're rewriting everything." Lena opened the folder on her desktop, the same one we've been keeping since this all began, and dropped the altered photo inside. "Let them delete," she said. "We'll keep the proof." The next day, an envelope arrived at our apartment. This one wasn't anonymous. It came from Bryce's new lawyer, some guy with a hyphenated last name and a letterhead that looked like it belonged in a small-town mall office. The letter accused me of defamation. Apparently, the Instagram stories I had never publicly responded to, the therapy sessions I had never discussed online, and the no-contact letter I had issued through my lawyer were character attacks. The final line was laughable. Cease and desist or face legal consequences. I handed it to Lena. She read it, raised one eyebrow, and said, "So we've moved from psychological warfare to mail-in theater." I laughed, but the truth was, I felt nothing. No panic, no fear, just a quiet certainty that I was untouchable now, not because I was hiding, but because I'd stopped caring what they thought. And that's when Harper called. Lena, now legally Harper, her choice, her timing, had just been recognized for her work in early childhood trauma intervention. A global education nonprofit had featured her in a video series called Architects of Empathy. Her episode aired on a Tuesday, and by Wednesday, she had been invited to speak at 2 international conferences and had 20,000 new followers. I watched her on the screen that night, talking about safe spaces and resilience and how emotional literacy can be taught like math. And I realized something. Her name was everywhere now. Ours was. They had tried to erase me, but she had made us unforgettable. Later, she turned to me on the couch and said, "They tried to strip you out of their history. And you made us global," I said. "Not out of revenge," she added. "No," I said, "out of reach." That night, I got one more message from Zoe. "Zoe, they said you'll regret cutting the family off. That when grandma dies, you'll feel it." I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed, "Me. I already did the grieving. They just haven't caught up yet." I hit send, then added the message to the folder, smiled, and closed the laptop. Because my legacy didn't come from their approval. It came from walking away and becoming someone they couldn't edit. We didn't invite anyone. There were no save the dates, no pastel envelopes, no monogrammed napkins or seating charts or chicken or fish options. Just us. In the ocean. Harper booked the ceremony spot herself, a hidden inlet on the coast of Portugal, where the waves came in slow and patient, and the rocks looked like they'd been there since the beginning of time. The officiant spoke only Portuguese. We didn't need to understand the words. We weren't exchanging vows for an audience. We weren't performing. We stood barefoot on smooth stones, wind in our hair, her curls pinned back with a silver clip I'd given her the night before. I wore a white shirt and no tie. She wore a linen dress that moved like it was part of the water. There were no rings, no bouquet, no aisle, just Harper holding 2 small stones in her hand, each etched with a name and a date. One said Deborah, 1972, my mother. The other said Harold, 1968, my father. We didn't explain them. We didn't have to. We stood by the edge of the tide, our feet cold and steady, and we threw them out to sea. No dramatics, no speeches, just one final gesture, a quiet release. Names into waves, dates into salt. Afterward, we sat on a blanket with warm bread and olives between us and watched the sky dim into dusk. We talked about everything and nothing. What kind of house we wanted, if we'd ever moved back to the States, what it felt like to be brand new with someone you've already spent years building a life beside. When we got back to the hotel, I checked my phone for the last time. An anonymous tip had come through at Harper's workplace. Someone reported that she had used her platform to harass and intimidate relatives for financial gain. It was laughable, childish, but it had a paper trail. Her boss forwarded it to their legal team and then to ours. A full investigation lasted all of 48 hours. And when it was over, something shifted. People started reaching out, not from my side of the family, but around it. Friends of friends, former classmates, a couple of ex-colleagues. They saw what Claire and Bryce were doing online. They'd noticed the stories, the photos with names blurred, the false narratives, the concerned comments that dripped with control. And slowly, subtly, the tide turned. Sympathy shifted, not toward me, but toward the truth. I wasn't campaigning. I wasn't arguing. I wasn't defending myself with Facebook threads and group chats. I had simply stepped away, and the world was starting to see what I had left behind. Harper's name became ours officially that week. My last name, Jefferson, was replaced in every document, every record, every profile. The final piece of paperwork arrived in a white envelope with a gold seal. I signed it quietly. Then Harper and I opened a bottle of local wine and toasted on the balcony. "To what?" she asked, raising her glass. I smiled. "To the sea," I said, "for taking the names we don't carry anymore." We clinked glasses, and below us, the waves kept rolling in, steady, soft, and absolute. The email came on a Wednesday. Subject line, "Emergency, your father." It was from a distant cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. One of those family tree branches who only show up for funerals and free food. Hey, Elliot. I know we haven't talked in a while, but your dad's in bad shape. It's serious. I thought you should know. There was no hospital name, no doctor's contact, no attached details, just drama bait and guilt with a clickbait subject line. Harper read it over my shoulder. Think it's real? I didn't even hesitate. It's a trap. She nodded. Then let's not take the bait. We didn't reply. 24 hours later, Claire posted a photo of my father sitting on a porch, beer in hand, laughing with Bryce. The caption read, "So grateful for small miracles and true family who still care." There was no emergency, just another production. Another attempt to yank on the strings they forgot I'd already cut. I filed the email away with the rest. The folder was massive now, digital evidence of every twist, lie, and manipulation. It didn't haunt me anymore. It anchored me. Then Claire tried one last time to win the narrative war. She posted a series of stories, selfies, crying, shaky hands, soft piano music in the background. In one, she spoke to the camera. Sometimes people walk away from their own blood and call it healing. But some of us are left behind to clean up the pieces. We were abandoned. That's the truth. And I won't be silent anymore. She paused, wiped a perfectly placed tear, and ended with, "He erased himself from our family, but not from our hearts." It went viral, at least within her small circle of sympathy. People I hadn't seen since high school reshared it. Distant cousins commented with heart emojis and Bible quotes. Old family friends chimed in with praying for peace red heart. I didn't respond. I filed it. Then I filed a takedown request. My lawyer submitted a digital defamation notice citing manipulation of shared family imagery, false implications, and public character distortion. We didn't ask for a payout. We asked for removal. 3 days later, the stories vanished. Claire didn't post again for a week. I guess being a victim is harder without an audience. That same week, something entirely unexpected happened. I got an invitation to keynote a tech conference in Copenhagen. One of my old aerospace mentors had recommended me. The topic? Designing systems that adapt to change. I almost laughed. Couldn't have picked a better title. The morning I flew out, Harper and I packed light. Just carry-ons. No family photos. No heirlooms. Just two people who had shed their past like a bad coat. We landed in Denmark to quiet streets, brisk air, and a conference room filled with innovators and thinkers who had no idea who I used to be and didn't care. I spoke about propulsion systems, yes, but I also spoke about integrity, about removing redundancies, about designing escape routes into your blueprints from the start. Afterward, someone asked me if I had ever had to eject from something I built. I smiled. Yeah, I said. Once. Best decision I ever made. We extended the trip by a few days, rented a cabin a few hours outside the city. No Wi-Fi. No service. One night, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the frost-dusted pines, I opened my laptop one last time. I pulled up the oldest email thread I had from my family. The first message was a grainy scan of a church bulletin, followed by years of scripture drops, emotional edits, gaslight apologies, and half-hearted holiday greetings. I hovered over the folder, clicked Select All, then pressed Delete. Not archive, not hide, just gone. The laptop screen turned empty. The inbox finally matched my life. Harper leaned over, kissed my shoulder. You okay? I nodded. It's quiet. She smiled. Let it be. And I did. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's not a void. Sometimes silence is a wall with teeth. And I had finally built one sharp enough to keep them out.